We are extremely privileged to have Amy Maclean with us today. She is Head of Patient Experience at Birmingham Women's NHS Foundation Trust. Amy is a client of Captive Health and has a couple of our products live on site there, which are producing good results for the Patient Experience Programme. But today she is talking to us about her recent experience of travelling across 17 hospitals and visiting 17 hospitals in the United States, looking at patient experience with a particular view on the maternity side, given the special interest of Birmingham women. So I'm going to hand over to Amy and we'll do a quick question answer after the session. But for now, you're in her hands. Amy, over to you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So this is just a little a pictorial, really, view of some of the places I visited, and I thought I'd just sort of flip through and share some of the places that I went while sort of organizing my conversation around a number of areas, such as the philosophies, different ways that care is given. One bucket I called sort of service transformation, completely different ways of doing things that we see in hospitals. Things around the environment, which is different from the building, communication, technology, and then into the organizational structure and governance that goes on around patient experience, and then just some plain good ideas. So that's how my presentation is sort of structured, with photos. And I just thought I'd sort of flip through some of this and then also finish with telling you what we've done at Birmingham Women's.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
On the basis of what I've brought back. So first of all, lots of things at Cleveland Clinic's conference from their CEO, who uses the term a lot about burning platforms. So when good ideas need to be put into place, something needs to create kind of that impetus for it, and that's the terminology uses burning platform, meaning you really got to, sometimes it's a crack of the whip from a CEO to say, this is what we're going to do, this is the priority, now make it happen. So that's sort of language that you hear used a lot. Family and patient-centered care is sort of the buzzwords around patient experience. In fact, patient experience is sort of last year. We don't even use that so much in some areas of the states. Now they've renamed their departments, the Department of Family and Patient-Centered Care or the Department of Service Excellence, really kind of doing what's on the tin as opposed to what sort of that nebulous patient experience. What does that mean? In the States, there are financial incentives behind patient experience. So whereas in America whereas in the UK it's often done because it's the right thing to do, it's on the back of mid-staff, the scandal, kind of a reaction to that. That's how patient experience has sort of become the center of attention after something bad that's happened. In the States, it's around getting paid back. You get sort of reimbursed by your insurance premium by having a high score of patient experience. So instantly, that's created this sort of micro organization within an organization, almost its own cost center for patient experience, because they know that if they do certain things, they're going to get this much money back every year. So a few other things on this slide here, but I'm just going to continue to work through some of the photos. So this is Cleveland Clinic, sort of as you walk up to it, and lots of things about the Cleveland Clinic took into the idea of calmness and sort of a spa feeling throughout its hallways. When you walk in, the first thing you see is a big welcome sign in every language, large open spaces. You can't obviously hear the music, but they have sort of spa music that's sort of piped in throughout the spaces as well. Patients first is their theme everywhere, and also all caregivers or all staff members are called caregivers. No matter what you do in the organization, you're a caregiver, and you wear this on your lapel. Lots of things are on the walls, lots of quotes, just sort of bringing inspiration and putting patients at the center of what's going on. That kind of messaging I saw in lots and lots of hospitals. So this is another example of a great hospital that has really good patient-centered care, family patient-centered care, which is the Long Island Jewish Medical Center. And they have this kind of poster, it's pretty simple stuff, but actually what they're doing is publishing to their staff, or to their patients, these are the things you can expect in every interaction with our staff. And these types of things, a Bill of Rights, a Bill of Rights is sort of very Americanism, but what your expectations are of how staff are going to treat you are around in many hospitals. This is something that's on the bedside table in a room put out by the housekeeper, so the housekeeping staff are committed to making this experience good for you, and so they have these little signs that show that they're part of the experience as well. Another example of a commitment from a hospital in Ohio. In terms of philosophies of care, sort of listed a few here, but let's see. I think I'll just talk particularly about on-stage, off-stage here. And later on in the presentation, I've got some architecture presentations that show some good ward layouts that really celebrate that that some areas of a ward, for example, should be on stage where you only see things that are patient facing, and then private areas for conversations and huddles that where patients shouldn't go, and that's where staff should be doing their talking. So sort of on stage, off stage use is a bit of a Disney principle. I'm going to talk a little bit here about rounding. So in the States, one of the principles that comes through in their HCAP score, so that's their equivalent of their friends and family test, is rounding. So how frequently were you rounded on hourly is the question. And so every hospital has something that helps manage the expectations of patients that they will be seen by somebody hourly. Because, of course, after they do get discharged is when they're going to take the test, their version of the Friends and Family test, and they're going to be asked, were you rounded on hourly? So lots of messages about telling people you're rounded on hourly are all over the hospital. So this particular one was in a delivery room, and the midwife puts the hour on the clock about when she's going to be returning, just to tell her when she's coming. The great thing about rounding is that we know that hospitals that round hourly tend to have high scores across the care continuum. So this is an example of a hospital that shows, actually this is a graph of an aggregate of hospitals, that when a hospital has high scores on nurses hourly rounding, everything across all the domains of care seem to be higher. So there's less pain, the room is cleaner, the food tastes better, the nurse communication is better, etc. All of those are high if the nurse rounds hourly, and the opposite is also true. So this is across a body of hospitals where the scores were quite low. If the nurse didn't round hourly, you can see everything across the board is also a poor score. So this is a quick, easy, not easy to do, but if you want fast results on improving patient experience across an organization, working on your rounding and getting it frequent is proven to impact patient satisfaction, certainly within an award area. This was just a photo of a place in a NICU, actually. So when you walk into a NICU, you're straight away given some breastfeeding equipment, a DVD player, a booklet to watch. So what you can't see in this photo is that the baby's cot is behind you in the NICU, but this is sort of your station with information and things ready to go to help you express and feed your baby. I took pictures as I went along about on some posters of some good work that each of the hospitals had done as well around care. I put this into my care bit because this is around prayer requests. I thought that was interesting. This is in a very rural hospital in Ohio, had in a very public place requesting prayer requests. On walls in lots of the delivery rooms, or lots of the postnatal rooms, there were clear expectations of what kinds of things you needed to do before you went home, and I thought that was quite useful. And I know in our hospital, women are often saying that they're confused. They're not quite sure what needs to happen next, so I thought that was useful. Wireless telemetry is used as a matter of course, and not because the U.S. is very advanced with allowing women to be mobile in labor, but they see tech as good. And actually in this particular delivery suite, they weren't using tech for water births or things, they were using the tech to allow the women to actually have a shower while they were in labor. I took lots of pictures of these types of boards because we're forever talking about the types of boards we should have in our hospital. There never seems to be an agreement about what kind of information should be on the wall, but I thought it was useful to bring back ideas. This is quite a good one because it's just a piece of glass that you can write on with a marker, but the piece of paper behind it can be changed out, so you're not married to the actual board. It can be changed quite quickly, and I thought it looked quite smart. Double sofa bed. Again, family patient-centered care focuses on the entire family as being part of the care team. So parents, fathers, particularly in a delivery suite area, and extended family members are treated as part of the team, and colleagues are expected to treat them as they would treat their, staff members are expected to treat family members as colleagues, giving them tea and coffee and showing them where they can give themselves independence with getting something to eat or drink. So all of that was just par for the course, and that's a challenge I find here in this hospital actually, so it's good to see that kind of happening regularly there. This is sort of a daily class schedule that this particular postnatal ward had. So because most women in the U.S. end up staying in hospital 2 days after the baby's born, that's what most insurance policies will pay for. There's a lot more space to offer kinds of postnatal instruction in more of a class-based way. So most postnatal wards have a classroom, and then they can offer sort of workshops like this. They don't, of course, have community midwives that visit them in home, so this is somewhat in lieu of that. And then this is another course about just a discharge education class for people who are going home, being checked out from hospital. Lots and lots of campaigns around quiet at night, because being quiet at night is one of the HCAHPS scores that hospitals are rated on. So wherever you look, there's some kind of campaign going on to keep the noise down at night, and to also be explicit to patients that people are working hard to get it to be quiet at night. Whether or not it's quiet at night is a different matter, but again, they're trying to just, there's a lot of marketing campaigns around the things that we know that they're going to be asked once they go home. I'll skip over this bit here, circumcision stations in the maternity hospital. Other things that go on, there's a lot of peer support, so a lot of breastfeeding peer support goes on there as well. A lot of infant feeding teams have a workshop set up in the hospital, much like they have here. Service transformation. One particular hospital worked hard on reducing its C-section rate by publishing the individual rates of the surgeons or of the medical team, and they used just the peer pressure to bring down C-sections very quickly. So as soon as it was apparent who had the highest score, even though, of course, everybody has a good explanation for it, very quickly, within a 6-month period, I think this particular hospital noticed that their C-section rate came way down just by having that sort of peer pressure, the public scores. Another bit of service transformation was around calling people on the phone after a scan. So instead of having to have your scan and then wait to see a consultant, you could have a choice to either stay and wait or know that you get a phone call between a couple of hours after you leave. So you saw the use of the phone was being used in lots of areas to keep people from having to wait around. I took quite a few pictures of one particular hospital's transformation from tray service in the cafeteria to room service. And I know that sounds very opulent and luxurious, but in fact, they used it as a cost-saving measure because there was less food waste, and instantly, overnight, as soon as the service was launched, food scores went through the roof. People were so satisfied with their food. The food was always hot, and of course, people were only ordering what they were going to eat. So there wasn't any waste. It was literally made to order. So I'll show a few pictures of that. This is a particular hospital, and their sort of new build. I took a picture of. This is a picture of a nourishment station. That's the family kitchen that they'd have on lots of wards. Of course, nourishment center sounds very American, I know. And you can see a well-stocked fridge there. That's in one of the maternity wards that I went to. So this is the restaurant linked to this this room service idea, and these are some of the articles that that came out when they made this transformation. And what was interesting about the transformation is that it didn't cost any more. They had to invest in new equipment to get the lines ready, but the actual staffing didn't cost any more. So this is, I just took lots of pictures of the kitchen area. And they did some nice, thank you stuff among the staff, lots and lots of teamwork. But this is one of the lines. So this is a short order cook line where somebody's making, a made-to-order hamburger for somebody who's just ordered it, room service, dishwashing areas, things like that. Another food line there. So the order comes in on a little ticket like that, and then some things are pre-made, and then some things you sort of go to, those are some of the pre-made things, or the other things you sort of go down an assembly line and you make things, fresh food to order. And the guarantee is you'll have your food within 45 minutes, and it will be hot, and it will be delivered to you. You can see on this computer screen here, those are all the orders in action, and the ones that are green are getting to be close to the end there. So they have a timer. See the white timer on the top of the thing tells the person who's pushing the trolley upstairs, you better get up there within 45 minutes. And then you can see that's what the sort of the finished product looks like. They've changed the staff to make them look like waiters, and they go upstairs and pour hot tea and coffee in the room. And they've, like I said, that they use the same amount of staff that they had used to serve the cafeteria style previously. That's their sort of call desk, so people, and the menus would be photographed as well, so people can look at what they're going to be ordering. So that's just a bit there. I took lots of pictures of that because I'd love to bring that idea back to the UK. I know that sounds really opulent, but I think that the fact that it doesn't cost anymore seems to be worth having an exploratory conversation. It's really just hotel catering. That's what it is. It shouldn't be that much more difficult to put into place. The other one other thing around service transformation that I found was very interesting is one particular hospital I went to used very specific forensic data on all of its patients and patients to decide the best way to intervene with them to prevent complaints or prevent poor feedback. So they worked out in this particular cancer hospital that it was on the 6th day of admission for female patients over the age of 50, that those were the patients who were most likely to complain. And it wasn't actually the patients, it was their family members. So they were able to track their data so specifically that they could really target those women as they were coming in and see if they could sort of mitigate issues prior to that 6-day peak. So I thought that was quite interesting how much they could pinpoint where problems might happen, and as a result of that, they've seen a reduction in complaints. So, yes, a little bit more about birth rooms here. So I've got some photos here. This is a little bit on evidence-based design. This came from an architecture talk I went to at the Cleveland Clinic's conference. We've got more pictures here, just soothing pictures. These are some muted walls. You can see the work with glass and light. In that particular room. This is a storage room, actually, so it's out in the hallway. Things are easily accessed by staff, but sort of tucked away behind some attractive glass. Yeah, let's see the corridor there. This is a staff room, and this is a parent sort of breakout area at the end of a ward where they can sort of be away from family, but have close access. Lots of free and tea and coffee for patients and their families wherever you go in clinics. Just par for the course is that they treat people. They don't presume they want to be there. Nobody likes being in a hospital, but the extra cost of a tea and coffee just seems to make, here's another free coffee station, makes sense. This was a safe sleep campaign, and it was just a crib and a baby doll that they leave out in a corridor to get people to walk by and practice putting the baby to bed safely, and the babies become a bit of a personality to staff. They dress them up on different holidays and things. So this is another, and I think this is at the Cleveland Clinic here. You can see the use of light, and loads of hospitals have pianos for people to play. You have to ask somebody to get the key to it usually, but much like you'd have to here. So lots of, go back to here actually in the Cleveland Clinic, lots of art. So there was an art kind of trail. So within the hospital, if you were wandering around, you could actually use the space to put on earphones or go to an app and listen to the stories behind the art. And that's something we're considering in our hospital as well, because of course women in labor wander the halls, and so it's nice to give them a little bit of direction, a little bit of making the hospital like you're supposed to be wandering the halls. And these are just some more images of some of the spaces. Baby dolls lining or babies in the corridor in the delivery suite. Lots of local artists donating some of their artwork to decorate the hallways. Do you want to ask me some questions, Andrew? I'm wondering if, based on time, what we need to do here.
Yeah, I mean, I find this absolutely fascinating, and there's a number of themes that come out. You've highlighted some themes and structured that really helpfully for us. One of the first things that struck me, Amy, during your presentation was around the use of behavioural goals, discharge checklists, using peer pressure to shine a light on C-section rates. I suppose it strikes me somewhat that in order to get some of that stuff right, your patient experience or patient family care department almost needs to be as one with your organizational development team.
Yes, and I'd say that we do that. We're on that trajectory in our hospital, working very closely with our human resources and our OD person, but it is not everyone has sort of bought into that notion. I think there is still a very strong patriarchal sense in the NHS, and it's difficult to sort of change that mentality of wanting to put patients at the heart of things. I don't know if I'm answering your question very well, but yes, I think I'd say align closely with HR.
Yeah, it's just a reflection, really, and just thinking about some of the things you said around the value of intentional rounding. Really powerful story there. The availability of food to order with a 45-minute standard, availability of welcome packs and equipment in NICU, this kind of thing. It strikes me that there's a very strong focus on, I suppose, customer service standard operating procedures there. Everybody knows what the goal is. Everybody knows that the customer or the patient is king. That's the kind of thing we would expect to see in service industries, in the private sector. Do you think the NHS will ever be able to achieve that?
I think it will if you get the right people into leadership positions who believe that strongly. We're partially there in our hospital. I think we have great leadership who are saying the right things, but it is to change the culture so that everybody from the ground up sort of believes that patients, in essence, should be treated like customers. They have choices, and we have a duty to make this, to put them and their needs at the center of what we do is sometimes not easy. So I think it is possible, and more things like this that allow us to have that conversation and really, I mean, I'd say if I flip through to toward the end of my presentation, some of the things that I have put in place in the UK around governance are I'm going to just flip out here so I can get to the end of the presentation here. I can talk to you a little bit about the governance structure. So something that I've brought back is something called the Staff-Led Patient Experience Committee. And the idea with this is that you're seeding patient experience initiatives across the organization. You're not having them just come from a team or from an executive. You're actually putting the keys in the hand of the people who are delivering the frontline care. So in this idea, and this is something I saw at a number of hospitals, and I think that this does happen in the UK. I don't think this is particularly unique to what we're doing, but perhaps isn't the norm, is asking for patient experience representatives from across the organization to come together and to share their challenges in their departments, share their successes, but share their challenges and ask for support and ideas across sort of laterally within the organization. So we've launched this about a month ago, and our next meeting, we're going to have 2 teams stand up and do a small presentation on what's going well in their department, what they're quite proud of with respect to patient experience, and then also talk about some of the challenges they're having, and then get the groups from other areas of the organization to work on some of those problems with them, kind of brainstorming and asking them questions, but in a supportive way. So this isn't like a board meeting, there isn't minutes, there's not necessarily an action item, action list either. This is a supportive group meeting where people are coming together with one common cause. And what in return for them coming to the meeting, I then say just make sure with your managers that you have 10 minutes on your individual team meetings to share back what you're learning about other patient experience initiatives and challenges across the organization. So I think that new kind of committee, as it were, and that way of working, I'm hoping is seeding will seed patient experience initiatives across our trust. We have kind of a parallel group for the medical teams as well, though we have medical representation on that staff-led group. I think the medical teams in our organization are leaders. They need to be seen as leaders, and they need to be taking patient experience seriously. So I run sort of a parallel group with the medical teams every quarter, asking them to come up with ideas that they think would make a difference, and then getting them to work on those with other leaders in the organization together. So watch this space. It's early days on that, but we've had good response at our first meeting, which was about a week ago.
We wish you luck with that. And Amy, just to summarise for us, so the 2 or 3 things that you would like people to take away from this, what would be if you could go to any organisation, any NHS, any NHS hospital, and say, hey, this is what I learned. What are the 2 or 3 things that you would say people should absolutely try and do in their organisation?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. I would say work hard on getting the staff-led patient experience committee going. I think that I've been here a year, and we've just started that initiative, and I really feel like giving the control and spreading out that that sort of, I don't want to say responsibility, but it is responsibility, but spreading it across the organization has really released a lot of my, I don't want to say frustration, but I feel like I'm sharing the joy and sharing the challenge by having started that committee, and also in parallel getting the medical groups connected as well. It's early days on that, but I think that those 2 things together are probably the biggest thing that I encourage people to do. I'd also look at at really getting staff to welcome feedback. It's not about complaints; it's about getting feedback and giving them the positive feedback to be creative about how you're getting your positive feedback and celebrating people's wins. So, for example, I didn't show it. It's in the slide pack here, but there's a TV screen that kind of gets run through in one particular hospital's lobby that showcases all the positive patient feedback that's come in through that month. And that's just a really great way to both congratulate staff, but also show patients how lovely a lot of the staff members are, and shines the light on that. So being very enabling with good feedback, as opposed to and just getting the hard stuff in and making an action plan against it. So I'd say those 2 things together, the governance, and then also the making sure feedback is positive for staff.
Well, that's a fantastic message to end on. So we're really proud that we helped Birmingham Women's collect their 50,000th instance of patient feedback last month, and we're proud to be on that journey with you. Amy, thank you very much for your time, and we will make this available online to people who weren't able to join us today. Anybody who wants to stay in touch with Amy, she's an avid and passionate blogger as well, so just go look for Amy Maclean's blog, and you will continue to learn and get insights from Amy as she tries to make things better at Birmingham Women's. Thank you very much, everybody, and stay in touch.